Hello, everyone. This is Vera, and I'm so glad to be back with our weekly interviews with Beauty Queens Galore, the pageant resource. And let me just tell you, I am super, super excited about today's guest. I have the amazing Miss World Traveler, Kerry Damiano, and she is a seasoned traveler. She is a writer, host. She brings her passion for glamour and travel to life in her web series and in her blog with over 130 countries in all 50 states under her belt. Yes, you heard that correct. Kerry's glamorous approach is influenced by her deep ties to the pageant community, recognized with the Legacy Award for her 25-year contribution to pageantry. Kerry is also an acclaimed coach, sponsor, judge, and title holder. Beyond pageantry, she freelances as a fashion and jewelry designer and runs a scripture memorization ministry called The Amazing Word. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Excited to be here.
Man, like I said, I cannot wait to talk to you because there's just so much I want to talk to you about. But let's start with what sparked your interest in pageantry?
Ooh, that was back in my college days. So I actually started a little bit later in life, but it was one of those things that I felt the call. I felt God calling me to do it, and I resisted, thinking, I'm an athlete. I'm into my schoolwork. I don't know that that's something I really want to do, but that calling just wouldn't go away, and so finally somebody sort of just haphazardly came into my life who knew something about pageants. And it was a person that I could use. Okay, well, who do I talk to? Where do I go? What is this whole thing? And that's just how I got started. And of course, then got addicted and never left.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, once you get into it, there is no leaving
It's
it. So
hard to get out, right?
it's so hard to get out. So, Beauty Queens Galore is a huge pageant resource. So, what would you like to see more coming from us in this coming year?
Well, just talking to more people like me who are part of the pageant industry. I judge, I coach, so I'm not competing anymore, but I'm still very into it. And so some of I think the resources that people bring who are involved, but they're a little bit more on the periphery. I think we have a lot to give to the industry.
Absolutely. You're so right. And it's like you said, there's so many parts and pieces to the industry. So I appreciate your input on that. So, Carrie, there's so much about you that's so extraordinary. But tell me, what do you want to be remembered for the most?
Mm. Um, that I sowed into the lives of young women. That really is a calling that God has put on my heart. And there's a Bible verse that says the older women are to teach the younger women. And we can all do that because there's always somebody younger, right? No matter what age you are, if you're 13, there's somebody younger than you, right? So to have passed on wisdom, knowledge, uh, just experiences to the generation behind me, I would like to be remembered for that.
Absolutely. You've definitely done that all around the world, literally. And speaking of that, tell us about the title Miss World Traveler.
Okay. Well, the title actually is an ode to my 40 plus years in pageantry. It wasn't actually a pageant. It's an ode pageantry. And because when I decided to do this, it was again sort of this epiphany of all of the things I've been doing my whole life, travel, pageantry, glamour, fashion, design work, all of those things sort of all combined into one thing. So it kind of made sense to put it under the umbrella of Ms. World Traveler, which is a title, but it's a brand, it's a web series. So it's a little bit like Miss Universe. It's a person, but it's a brand and it's a company. It's all kind of the same thing. So it's kind of what Ms. World Traveler is.
And that is exactly what you are. Because, like I said, did you hear me? Over 130 countries and all 50 states. I found that to be so extraordinary. And I think I remember reading that was it your mom that took you like on your very first trip and
That's
really got
right.
that bug of wanting to
Yes, that's
travel?
right. My mom has always been ahead of her time. She just put us kids in the car and took us to swim meets and track meets and took us all over. And while my dad was working, she was on the road taking us places. And so I grew up with that sense of women can do this. Women can be independent and just go and do. And then my very first international trip was a college graduation present. And it was one of those 10 countries in 17 days kind of a thing, on a bus where you travel all over. And my mom took me on that. And that really sparked my love of international travel, culture, history, architecture, all of that kind of thing.
I absolutely love that. It's just amazing how your childhood really does spark this love and interest, and now look what it has done for you, as an adult, and to be able to help women too. Absolutely love
Mhm.
that. So let me ask you, because you have been a former title holder, we talked about it. You Miss Idaho USA 1983. How were you able to build your brand outside of competing in pageantry?
Um, well, the last time I competed was in 1983. So at that time, we didn't know that much about building brands. You just did your title and you went to parades, you did grand openings and things. Gentry has changed a lot over the last 40 years. And it really has become much more about the voice that you have. It wasn't at that time. So it's a little bit different. But as I've been building my brand, really the last 20 odd years, I would say, is more as I got into coaching, wardrobe consulting, fashion and design, that sort of thing. Part of how you build your brand is by being around other like-minded people. So I very much stayed in pageantry with judging and coaching. So that kind of kept me in. So I think part of your brand is your look. And I talk a lot about that when I speak different places, is branding your look. So I have a couple things that I really focused on. One is my hair, to have hair that people recognize. So I went natural a number of years ago, and people say that your hair is very recognizable. Um, and then my lipstick. You will never see me without some kind of lipstick on. So those are just a couple of examples of how you can brand your look, and some of the things that I've done to just brand sort of who I am.
And I love that because it's not anything like major, something as simple as a hairstyle or a lip color, and that defines who you are. Because it's so funny because everywhere I know who you are based off your hair and your lip color. And it's just something that simple, because a lot of times people identify branding as having to be something big or, expensive, but it doesn't have to be that way. It can be
It
something
doesn't have to
simple.
be something that's unique about you, and says something about your personality, or your character, something that is uniquely you. That is a branding element.
I love that. So, as a former USA competitor, there's been a lot of changes recently. So, what do you feel about all the new changes and also about the new eligibility rules?
Mhm. Well, I'm waiting to see a little bit how it all falls out. Obviously, the eligibility is wonderful in terms of it just allows so many more women to be involved, and I love that you're not cut out. This is something that no matter who you are, what age you are, whatever phase of life you're in, it's something that you can be involved in. So I love that part of it. There's been a lot of changes, and some of them just seem a little bit of some ups and downs. And so I think we have to weather the storm a little bit, and see how it all falls out in the end. But I have no doubt, Miss USA, Miss Universe, they're such strong brands that I think everything will work out in the end.
And it usually does. It always does. Change can be
Mhm.
good, and it's always at the beginning a little tough, but then you
Yeah,
get
take
used
us
to
on a
it.
roller coaster.
That's right. It keeps us watching and keeps us wondering what's going to go on. So, and
Mhm.
speaking of your USA journey, what part
Mhm.
of that journey do you believe is still relevant to your life today?
Oh, everything. I feel like the skills that I learned back 40 years ago when I was a title holder have carried me through the ability to speak in public, the confidence to present myself in public, the confidence to march to the beat of my own drummer. And that was also part of my branding too, that, my style is my style. I don't copy anybody else. I'm not always looking for what is somebody else doing. I want to do what's right for me. And I don't really care what other people think about that. So I think pageantry gave me the confidence to be able to do that.
Yes, it does. Like you said, it's those life-changing skills that stick with you forever. It's like it just never goes away because
Yes,
you learn so much about yourself in that short
you
period
do.
of
And you
time.
become so much more self-aware,
You do.
right? And like, for example, interview skills. I was in college when I started in pageantry. And then when I got out of college and started doing, professional interviews, it was like piece of cake. This thing compared to, what I've just been doing. So, but that's a skill that you don't even realize that you're getting. You can just do it. You're just this is now.
Absolutely. You're so right. And so let me ask you, because I did take a look at it today. Well, actually, yesterday, I got to take a look at your blog and your YouTube channel. So tell us all about that for those who may not know.
Sure. Well, our mission at Ms. World Traveler, and when I say our, it's my niece, my niece who's 30 years old, and she is the social media manager, and she does all the videotaping and editing. She and I travel all over, and our mission is to inspire women to travel. So hopefully they see what we're doing and want to be part of it. Not only follow our journey on Instagram and YouTube, but also they want to go to these places. And then when we get there, the idea is to shop local. So we feature women artists, designers, entrepreneurs. It's meant to, but really try to focus on women helping and supporting other women, which hopefully inspires women to want to travel and to go to these places.
And I love that because it's kind of giving you a preview of what to expect when you go and travel to these different
Yes.
places. Because a lot
Yeah.
of times that's the question you ask, when you decide to go somewhere, it's like, where do I go? When I go to this
Yes.
city or this country, where do I
Yeah.
go? And I love that you
Well,
do that.
and also we're trying to do something different. As you know, there are thousands of travel blogs and vlogs out there. So in order to make us different, one was the banner, wearing that. So that makes it a little bit different. But we're also talking about shopping and style, fashion, art, that sort of thing. And not a lot of other none that I know of actually do that. They're, eating scorpions and bungee jumping off a cliff and, off the beaten track. Those are all wonderful things. But I wanted to do something that was different enough that it gave people information that they could use that was they're not getting on every other.
Absolutely. So, in terms of traveling alone, because, like we talked about before the show even started, just pack your bags and go, and enjoy yourself. Do you have any particular safety tips that you can give, as young ladies that are, out here traveling?
Uh-huh. Well, use your common sense. That sounds so simple. But when I hear some stories of what some of the decisions that people make and then get themselves into the sketchy situations, you haven't used common sense. So I try and do things like if I'm going to a place that women are not particularly welcome to travel to be by themselves, it's a very male dominated place, then I hire a private guide. That makes me feel safer that somebody knows the language, somebody knows the areas not to venture into, that sort of thing. But using your common sense, I'm not out late at night walking around by myself. I try and stay in hotels that are in city center or in well-known tourist areas so that there's some level of there are other people around maybe speak English or, it's just more accepted to be there. So getting off the beaten track, that sounds great, but it can also be that you are now in a place where might not be safe for you to be. So those are a couple things.
Well, we appreciate those tips, and it's very helpful. Like you said, just always be mindful of your surroundings. So it's very very important. I mean, you've traveled so many places. Do you have a favorite destination place that you've traveled?
Different favorites for different reasons. And so we actually just got back from New Zealand, beginning of December, but the time before that I was in New Zealand was 25 years ago. And so for 25 years, I have been saying that my favorite for friendliness of the people was New Zealand. And it's just as true today as it was back then. They love Americans and they're just so friendly that, they meet you on the street and invite you home for dinner, that kind of thing. So that's for friendliness of the people. For shock value, I would say Egypt. Everything seemed to be shocking. The heat was shocking. The lack of sanitation was shocking. The amount of flies was shocking. What they built was just awesome in terms of shock value. So, different countries for different reasons.
Oh, I love that. I think that's so great. So, do you have any current travel goals right now?
Well, this week we leave for Rome, and we're going to be there for 4 weeks filming the show. And so this is a little bit different. Typically, we don't go for that long, but in 2023, we went to Paris for 5 weeks and just got great content. And the idea was to live more like a local rather than like a tourist. And we loved the feel of that so much. We just ended up having the luxury of time. And typically, when you travel, you don't have the luxury of time. You see as much as you can and you move on to the next thing, or you have to come home. You just can't be away that long. So, this is for 4 weeks, and we'll really be able to delve into outlying areas, places that you wouldn't normally see when you only have a few days there. So, I'll be looking forward to that.
That's going to be very exciting. So, let me ask you in terms of when you travel, what's the best way we can budget our money, in terms of traveling or staying somewhere extensively? What's the best way to budget your funds for these trips?
Well, I don't know that I have the answer for the best way because that's different for every person. So, for example, when I travel, I've been traveling for 30 years by myself. That is more expensive to do it that way. So I try to save money other ways. So I watch flight prices. For example, I'll watch it for a year and I can see where the price is. Okay, it's sitting at $1,500 and it sits there and it sits there and it sits there, and then it drops down to $700. That's when I book it because I know what the price was. So I watch the prices and try to save money other ways. I take public transportation, trains, buses, subway, things like that. I always try and find a hotel room or an Airbnb with a refrigerator. And then I can stock it with groceries. And that saves money on meals out. Typically, I'll eat meals in. So I might even get something, take away and take it back to my room, take off shoes, pull the feet up, after a long day of sightseeing. Well, that saves on the tip. And so these are just little things, but as you know, they can add up, right?
They do.
So that's my advice is just save on the little things wherever you can.
That's some good advice, and that's in anything. Anything. So, this is such an honor that you've received. So, tell us a little bit about the Lifetime Achievement Award you've received.
I actually did not receive that, but I did receive a legacy award at the Global
Wow.
Beauty Awards. And that is for over 25 years of contribution to the pageant industry. That has to do with one, the coaching, just mentoring young women, sewing into their lives, and also judging, which I feel like that is an opportunity for me to change the trajectory. Say that 10 times fast. Trajectory, of a young woman's life. And so I'm very honored to have that opportunity to do that.
Wow, I think that's such an honor. And like I said, you've been in the industry for so long and you've been involved in it. And I just love the fact that you were honored because of all of your hard work that you have done in the industry. So, congratulations to you again.
Thank you. That one was very special.
Absolutely, I can see why. So as you mentioned, like social media is big. Like you have YouTube, you have a blog. I've seen you on Instagram. Like I see you
Yes.
everywhere, and I
Yes.
love that. Um, so anybody that's listening and they're like, you know what, I kind of want to do what Carrie's doing, but
Mhm.
where do I start in this world of social media? How do I get started?
Well, interesting that you asked that, Vera, because I am brand new to social media. And it's kind of funny. I've known for years that I needed to. And every time I would think about it, I would get this overwhelming sense of yuck. Like it's just not for you. It's just not right. And that lasted until this idea from Ms. World Traveler came that it was all digital. And all of a sudden it was like, okay, it's time now. It's time for social media. So my whole feeling of yuck just went away. But my secret weapon is the fact that my niece does this for me. And because she's young and she knows it. And then I have someone to ask questions. So something that maybe even you grew up with, uh, and it's second nature to you. If you haven't been on it, it doesn't make sense to you. Okay. Like, what's the difference between a story and a carousel and a reel? Okay, if you've been on it, that seems like a silly question. But if you've never done it, you don't know. You don't automatically know what those things are. So I feel very fortunate, very blessed that I have someone to kind of walk alongside me and help me along, answer my silly questions, and now I'm getting into it and really enjoying
And I think that's great that you have someone that you can do that with, because it does make it a lot easier
it. It
creating
does.
content when you have
Just,
someone.
just to be able to ask questions, right? I think that's important.
Yes, I think that's very important. And now I mentioned I've seen where you've judged several pageants. And what do
Yes.
you think the best advice you can give to a young woman that's competing in a pageant from a judge's perspective? What should she come in prepared? How should she be prepared, in the terms of the eyes of a judge?
Okay. To know herself. And I know that seems so, you know, 101, basic 101 pageantry. But if you aren't aware of who you are inside and what you want to project, then you're projecting the wrong thing. This can come from your styling. Uh, if you fit yourself into a uniform or what somebody else thinks that you should wear because they think that's what the judges want to see, they don't know. And this happens with me a lot. Like, I don't like what I call the uniform for interview. The exact same dress, it's in a different color for every girl, and sometimes it'll be one shoulder, and sometimes it'll have a ruffle, and but it's the same solid color to the knee, fitted dress or fitted jumpsuit. After I've seen 25 of those, I'm tired of it. So as a judge in my mind, I'm like, show me something different. I want to see your style. I want to see who you are. I want to see a reflection of your personality come out in how you have presented yourself. And so when I see the same, I can't judge you fairly because you haven't shown me who you are. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. That does.
So when I say, show us who you are, be aware of who you are, that's just one example of sort of an outward reflection of that. But it's the same for when you're answering questions too, that you're not trying to tell us what we want to hear when you don't know what we want to hear. So it would be better for you to tell us just who you are and support it with stories and experiences that you have been through. That's what makes you who you are. So if you said, the sky is green, and then you told me a story of personally why you think the sky is green, whether I agree with you or not isn't the point. Were you able to support your answer with sound reasoning? That's telling the judges who you are.
I always say speak from the heart. No one knows you better
Yes,
than yourself,
exactly. Exactly.
So I think you
And you can't give a wrong answer if you are supporting it with things that you have been through, your own experiences. Again, whether the judge agrees with you or not, that's not the point. It's this is your experience. This is who you are. This is, you're sharing something about your life, and that allows the judges to get to know you.
absolutely. And as a As someone who promotes women, entrepreneurs like you do, what are your thoughts of women, kind of putting off marriage and starting a family for their careers?
Well, I'm single, never married. So obviously, I'm all about wait until the person comes along that you can't live without, and then you'll know that the time is right. So don't push it. Don't try and say, well, I'm such and such an age and I should be married now. No, it will happen when it's supposed to. And so in the meantime, do everything that you want to. Follow your passion, learn new hobbies, take classes, develop friendships, become financially independent, do all of the things that uh, make you you, and that makes you more attractive, right? To, whoever you want to be with.
I agree with you 100%. And so, Kerry, you're very busy, despite everything that you do. So tell us, how do you balance everything that you have going on?
Well, I get a lot of sleep. you know, uh, Cut corners on other things, but not sleep because then I'm irritable and I don't get things done. You don't think clearly. So that's one of the things. So I'm pretty organized in terms of making lists. Every single day I have a list of things that I want to get done. And it feels so good to cross the things off, right? And then at the end of the day, I look and I got most everything crossed off the list. Not always, but that feels good at the end of the day. And it also helps me figure out, okay, what needs to move till tomorrow, and what are the priorities, because some things have deadlines, some don't. Obviously, with this trip Rome coming up, I have deadlines of things that have to be done before I go. So I'm keeping very, copious lists on that so I don't forget anything.
Well, you have to. I was like, I have I have a calendar on the phone. I have a calendar I write in. It's like I just need multiple ways to make sure I don't forget
Yes,
anything.
exactly. Because it's easy for something to slip through the cracks, right?
It does. And it can cause
Hmm.
that anxiety, that we're trying to avoid, is trying to keep
White
that
knuckles,
balance.
don't need to have white knuckles on things.
That is so, so very true. So, we talk about women's empowerment all the time. So, how do you best define it?
Ooh. Hmm. I think that the confidence to be who you are in any situation. I think that's what makes you feel empowered, is you can just be who you are and not care whether someone is saying, should you be wearing that? Or should you wear your hair that way? Or, is that what you mean to say? That you just have the confidence to be who you are, and then you feel empowered.
That is so true. And that's why I was like, if there's anybody listening out there who was probably wanting to take a trip, was afraid to do so, I mean, look at you. You just step out on faith and just go for it and
Do it.
do it. And you're having a
Just do it.
ball.
Yeah. Well, and for those who are afraid to do it on their own, I always say try and identify what the fear is. Is it that you can't afford it? Is it that you'll be lonely? Is it that you don't know that you can figure it all out? What is the thing that is stopping you from doing it? And then when you figure that out, then you can address what that thing is. Okay. If it's money, well, then there's things that you can do. You can save, you can do, lots of things that you can do. But until you identify what is causing your fear, you can't really do anything about it.
Absolutely not. And that's the thing. You just have to let's just take a risk and just do it and enjoy yourself,
Yes. Yeah.
Life
And when
is
you
short.
do, yeah, when you do, then you feel confident. It's like liberating. Okay, well, I did that. I went to Paris and did it on my own. So what's next? Now nothing can stop you because you've done it. You did the thing that made you nervous, and now you have the confidence to move on to the next thing.
And I know that I had to talk about this because we're in the world of fashion. I would love to hear more about your jewelry designs. 'Cause I just love
Okay.
jewelry. So
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, these are my, I have this weird neurosis that every outfit has to have a pair of earrings to go with it. But since I make it myself, things don't go to waste. So for example, I make these earrings to go with this outfit. And at some point, if I don't have the outfit anymore, I just take the earrings apart, beads back into my inventory, and then I can use them for something else. So for me, it's, I don't feel like it's that expensive to do it because keep an inventory. I like to collect from my travels. See things at vintage stores or whatever. I see interesting beads. I pick them up, take them apart, put them in my inventory. And then when I want to make something, I have, the pieces and then I can just reuse them for something else if I don't have that outfit anymore.
I love that. I mean, I love how you can just take them apart and then you're just going to create a whole nother piece of jewelry. I just love that. It's
Yeah.
so creative.
Well, I would hate for you to look at my jewelry where I have my jewelry because I have a lot of earrings. It's a
I
little
love
embarrassing,
earrings.
but I said I rationalize it with I can take them apart and save the beads.
That's right.
And I
And
do
you have tons to choose from too.
exactly. But I love to make them for other people. So like girls that I'm working with, I make jewelry for them and just give it to them. It's just a ministry that I like to do it. And if we've designed an outfit for them, I'll design the jewelry to go with it. And that's just something that makes me feel good.
Well, I love it. And they look good too. I was like, I like these earrings. So, and I
Good.
see, I have to talk about your scripture memorization ministry called the Amazing Word. Can you tell us more
Yes.
about that?
Yes. Well, I started memorizing as a child and then got away from it and came back to it around 2000. And that's when I started memorizing whole books. And that sounds like it would be harder, but it's actually easier to do it that way because then you have a story. You build one and then you add two and then you review and then you add three and you review and you add four. And so you just keep building like that. So it's actually easier to remember if you're doing it in context. And in context just means by paragraph, by chapter, by book. And so I have over 20 books now and lots of chapters. And once you have it in your heart, nobody can take it away from you.
That's right. And I bet it's so much fun, like when you're traveling, to be able to do that as well.
Yes.
That little
Well,
downtime.
because if I don't have my Bible with me, now most people have it on their phones now, but if you don't have it with you, it doesn't matter. It's in your heart. So again,
Absolutely.
nobody can ever take it away from you.
Absolutely. It's always going to be there
Yeah,
for you. Always, is what
that's
I
right.
say.
That's right.
So I have to
That's
ask
right.
you, in terms of
Yes.
pageantry, is there a pageant trend that you would want to see disappear?
Is there a pageant what?
A pageant trend that you would love to see just kind of
Um,
disappear?
hmm. Yes. Uh, well, I think some contestants have gotten to the point where they think they have to have some kind of tragic story in order to do well. You have to have been an organ donor, or you have to have, been delivered from heroin addiction or whatever, you're blew down and now whatever. So the girls who didn't have something horrific happen to them, they feel like it's hard for them to compete with someone who has had a very traumatic, something happen to them. So that to me is a little bit of a trend. It's somewhat new within the last 5 to 10 years. That you don't have to. You can still have a voice and make a mark and make a difference in your community without having had a tragedy in your past.
Absolutely. I agree with that because, we all have a story, and
We all
different
have a
things have
story.
happened to us, no matter
That's
what.
right. That's right.
So I have to ask you, on the other side of things, is there a trend you wish would come back?
Ooh. Big hair. Does that count?
Yes. Gotta have big hair. Big pageant hair was the best.
Well, I look back at some of the pictures and it looks so funny now, but there was something really glamorous about that big curled hair.
It was, and then the shoulder pad was like up to here, and your hair is out to here, so it kind of
Yeah,
evened things out. Like,
it's quite silly. But I think we've kind of taken the pendulum really far into don't do anything with your hair, absolutely straight, absolutely nothing, which is fine. It's a trend. I think there's probably a happy medium with having a sense of style that is your own, not trying to, again, look like every other contestant. Just be the best you and what's flattering for your face and what your hair will do. And so
I
go for it,
agree.
right?
I agree. Now that's so funny. Now I'm gonna have think about big hair, and I'm adding the shoulder pads in there. So, but it was fun. I mean, people have to understand, like, those were big,
Yeah.
back in the day. Those were the trends that you just stood out, because of
Yeah.
your big hair and things like that. So it's so much fun to always reflect on those older pageant days, because
Well,
it was amazing.
things cycle, don't they?
And they do.
Yeah.
From the type of dresses women wear, like, it just everything
Mhm.
kind of
Everything
recycles.
cycles.
That's
Yes.
right. And I have to ask you, because we talked about this before the show even started. It's like, when's a good time to start in pageantry?
Ooh, when you're ready. So not when someone else says you're ready, when you are ready. And that's different for every person. So as a coach, I typically don't take girls younger than 12 just because I don't feel like they're far enough along in their pageant journey for me, for my expertise. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't. It's just that's just kind of a line that I drew. And I have taken girls younger than that. I tried to, you know, try to have it, but it doesn't always work. The point is, think that you have to be ready. You have to want to do it. You have to do it because you want to, not because somebody else says that it's time for you to do it.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And before I play this little game with you, I have to ask you this question, because you travel so much. I can imagine how many friends you make along the way.
Uh, well, I don't know that I have a number, but it's fun to sort of be at that moment in time, strangers passing in the night, kind of. So, for example, I was in China and my phone didn't work there. This was a number of years ago. My phone didn't work there. And this other gal, an American woman, I met at the airport, in the restroom, which that's a great place to meet people, right? The women's restroom. And we realized that at some point in our itinerary, we were going to be in the same city at the same time. And so we made a date to, okay, at this where I'm staying, and you come there at 8 o'clock and we'll go have dinner. And we had no way to communicate with each other whether that was actually going to work or not. So we just sort of had to trust that you're going to be there on the day you said you were going to be there. And it worked out. And we just had this wonderful evening conversation and dinner. And then never heard from her again. That's an example of just meeting someone on your travels, and it was just ships passing in the night.
And I think that's so much fun, though. Like, it's a
It
great
is.
way just to meet people, interact. And it just makes traveling that much more fun too, because you're
It
learning so
does.
much culture, but you're also learning
Yes.
about the people there. So I love to hear those
Right.
stories.
Right. Well, and when people are nervous about traveling by themselves, they don't realize that you can control how much social interaction that you have. You're sitting next to a stranger on the train, talk to them, start up a conversation. If you're lonely and you don't want to be alone, maybe it will be a conversation, maybe it won't. But point is you can kind of control how much interaction you have. For me, a lot of times I'm on the plane. I just kind of want to be in my own world. I want to read, or I want to sleep, or I want to work. So I typically don't strike up a conversation, but certainly have before. And it's kind of a nice way to pass the time.
It is. It is. It's just so much fun. I was like, you just have so much fun, and I love it. Well, we're gonna play this game called
Okay.
This
You
or
didn't tell
That.
me there was going to be a game.
Surprise.
Okay.
We're playing this game called This or That. So you just pick one or the other, and there might
Okay.
be one in there. I might let you slide and have both. Just depends. So, travel alone or travel with others?
Don't travel alone. No
New
question.
Zealand or Scotland?
Oh, oh, that okay. I have to take both on that. We just did Scotland here a couple months ago, and that's one of my favorite places as well. So I'm calling a gimme on that. I'm gonna take both.
Okay, I'll let you slide on that one. Are you early bird or night owl?
Ooh.
Ooh,
Well, interestingly, I am in the middle.
okay.
I'm not super early. I get up at 6, but I have to have an alarm to get up, and I go to bed about 11. So
Okay.
I'm no good the next day if I've stayed up till 1 or 2 in the morning. So I'm a, middle of the day
Right
person.
there in the middle. Okay, I love
Yep.
it. City or countryside?
City.
Okay.
That one was easy too.
Ooh, Minneapolis, Minnesota, or Denver, Colorado?
Ooh. Ooh, I like both. I probably spent more time in Minneapolis. I work with some pageant girls there, and I've judged a number of times there. So I would say Minneapolis. Plus, there's one of my favorite antique stores there, Hunt and Gather. It's a great, quirky, fun shop. I covered it on my show last summer. So yeah, Minneapolis.
Oh, there we go. Full glam or natural glam?
Oh, full all the time, every day, full glam.
So, ooh, New Mexico or Puerto Rico?
Just come back from. You must have gone and looked at my show because we have covered both of those here recently. But we just did Puerto Rico a couple months ago, so I would say San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Ugh, sounds like so much fun. Ooh, oh, this is fun. Pack light or overpack?
Who are you talking to here? I wouldn't say that I'm an overpacker because I plan out, again, very organized. I plan out every outfit for what I'm going to be doing. But I am not a person that is going to wear something twice. So I'm not an underpacker. I would lean toward overpacking.
Okay, I agree with that. Ooh, restaurant or street food?
Ooh, ooh, that's a good question. Hmm. I do like a little of both. I'm that is a tough one. But I'd say restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah.
East Coast or West Coast?
West Coast. I grew
Definitely
up in Idaho and I've lived in Arizona for close to 40 years, so I'm a West Coast gal.
West Coast gal.
Yeah.
Ooh, last one. South America or North America?
Ooh, okay. Well, being from North America, I'm not sure that's a fair question. In terms of travel, I love South America, and we actually have coming up in May, we're going to be filming in Rio de Janeiro and in Buenos Aires. So, I like both.
See, the adventures never end. I mean, Carrie, I just want to
Yeah.
say thank you so much for giving us a chance to really gain some insight on who
Yeah.
you are because you're just an extraordinary woman. I mean, totally empowered out here, making a difference and having fun doing it. So, before you go, if you don't mind sharing, tell everyone how they can find you and keep up with all of your travels.
Okay, sure. Well, we have a YouTube channel. It's Ms. World Traveler, Ms. World Traveler. And we also have Instagram. So it's Kerry Ms. World Traveler, Kerry, Kerry Ms. World Traveler. So that would be the easiest way to keep up with us. And of course, we do have the blog, which I haven't been very good about dating, but it is there. And that's MsWorldTraveler.com.
Well, that's wonderful. I mean, you've been a little busy with the blog, a little bit
Yeah.
just slightly busy, kid, just slightly
Yeah.
busy. So thank
Yeah.
you again so much. It has
Thank you,
been
Vera.
such a thrill to talk with you. It's been an honor to talk to you and get
Thank
to
you
know
so
you
much.
better. So thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me on the show, Vera. I really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And everyone, I hope that you all enjoy the rest of the week. Look out for other interviews that we're going to have. And again, I am Vera with Beauty Queens Galore, the pageant resource. I hope everyone has a wonderful evening. Goodbye.